Welcome to this explainer. We constantly hear that saving the planet is just too expensive, that transitioning to a sustainable economy costs way too much. But what if our entire understanding of money is completely backwards? Today, we're diving into a really fascinating synthesis of economic and ecological frameworks that literally flips the script on how we fund our future. Let's get into it.
If we're not constrained by money, what are we actually waiting for? This provocative question sits right at the heart of our analysis today. It directly challenges everything we've been taught about government spending and austerity. Think about it. If finding the money isn't the actual roadblock, well, we're forced to confront our real physical and political excuses.
We've got a great roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with the double failure, move into the money myth, and then ask, what are we waiting for? After that, we'll cover releasing real resources, the tax and dividend engine, and finally, funding a just transition.
Section 1. The double failure.
As the brilliant systems analyst Donella Meadows once pointed out, our problem isn't that the system is malfunctioning, it's that the system is functioning exactly as it was designed to. Our economy is extraordinarily efficient at turning living communities into financial abstractions. So these crises we're facing, they aren't accidental glitches, they're the natural output of how the global economy is currently designed, which means we desperately need a complete redesign, not just a temporary patch.
So what exactly is this double failure? Well, look at the dynamic we're dealing with. On one hand, we're crashing right through the planet's ecological limits. That's the ecological overshoot you see pushing past the planetary ceiling. On the other hand, we're letting millions of people fall through the social floor into deprivation. We basically have an economy optimized for abstract financial wealth, but it completely fails to provision society justly. And as the source material points out, this inability to meet basic human needs poses a massive systemic threat to the very resilience of our democracies.
Section 2. The money myth.
Modern monetary theory, or MMT, delivers a massive epiphany here. It demonstrates that governments with their own currency and central bank are never revenue constrained. They literally cannot be forced to default. Think of it kind of like the banker in Monopoly. The banker doesn't need to borrow money from the players to hand out $200 when you pass go, right? The government creates money in the exact same way, by spending it into the economy.
It's basically a Copernican revolution for economics. Just like discovering the Earth revolves around the sun, MMT reframes the entire power dynamic. It proves that democratic governments are not dependent on financial markets for money. This is a massive shift. The power moves away from bond markets and the banking sector right back to the democratic government. The government is the sun. It sets the terms, and the financial markets just revolve around it.
Section 3. What are we waiting for?
Now, once MMT forces the question, if money isn't the constraint, what are we actually waiting for? It changes absolutely everything. It means we can spend the money right now to remove and replace harmful infrastructure. Our only true limits are physical. Do we have the engineers, the steel, the energy, and the labor to actually get the job done? Money is simply the tool we use to mobilize those real resources.
When you integrate these three core paradigms, a pretty amazing conceptual foundation emerges. By combining MMT with planetary boundaries and a tax and dividend approach, a sovereign government can preemptively manage those real resource constraints we just talked about. MMT removes the financial barrier entirely. Planetary boundaries define the strict ecological limits we absolutely have to respect, and the tax and dividend approach acts as the crucial steering wheel to safely get us there.
Section 4. Releasing real resources. To actually build a sustainable future, we have to physically move resources from where they cause harm over to where they meet real human needs. We've got to shift labor and materials away from destructive industries like fossil energy extraction and deforestation and redeploy them directly into public investments. Things like renewable energy infrastructure and the circular economy. MMT provides the capital we need to physically drag these resources from the destructive column over to the sustainable one. If we're going to build wind turbines and high-speed rail, we need the steel and the engineering talent currently tied up in fossil fuel extraction and single-use plastics.
In this new framework, taxes don't actually fund spending. Instead, they act as a steering wheel to cool inflation and a wrecking ball to destroy demand in harmful industries. By taxing upstream carbon and virgin materials, we make them much more expensive. Naturally, demand drops. And that frees up the physical space, the labor, the materials, the energy, for the government to step in and spend heavily on green infrastructure without causing inflation. We are basically using this tax and dividend mechanism to literally drive the physical change we need.
Section 5. Tax and Dividend Engine.
Now, a crucial point here is that we can't just tax everything without hurting everyday people. But don't worry, the government isn't going to tax your basic survival. There's an essential needs buffer built in. This ensures that your everyday electricity, basic groceries, and water are protected, kept either highly affordable or totally free. I mean, we all need to live. But once you cross that threshold into excessive, ecologically damaging consumption, that's when you get hit with a heavy planetary boundary tax.
And here is the kicker. The government doesn't even keep this tax money. It returns 100% of it directly to citizens as a universal dividend. This makes it an incredibly progressive system. Because lower-income households naturally consume less, the check they get back in the mail will actually be bigger than the planetary boundary taxes they paid. It literally pays to be green. The system actively compensates the public while strongly penalizing massive overconsumption.
Beyond just the environmental impact, the setup acts as a brilliant macroeconomic stabilizer. It actively manages aggregate demand. The tax destroys purchasing power in harmful supply-constrained sectors, which prevents resource scarcity from turning into rapid inflation. Meanwhile, the dividend and government investment create purchasing power in socially beneficial sectors where supply can actually be expanded, like renewables, retrofitting, and care work.
Section 6. Funding a just transition.
We absolutely have to ensure that as we redesign the economy, no one is left behind. Period. So we couple this dividend with an MMT-powered job guarantee. Instead of keeping a buffer stock of unemployed people, we create a buffer stock of green jobs dedicated to ecological restoration and social care. If a fossil fuel plant closes, those workers are immediately guaranteed well-paying public work, maybe retrofitting homes or working in local food production. Regional investment funds also jump in to support those fossil-dependent areas. This is how we truly secure our social foundation.
So, pulling this all together, the entire policy package rests on 4 main pillars. Pillar 1, we tax what we want less of, carbon and resource depletion. Pillar 2, we use progressive pricing to protect everyone's basic needs. Pillar 3, we share the proceeds equally through a universal dividend. And Pillar 4, we invest heavily in public goods using MMT's fiscal capacity to do it all without arbitrary borrowing constraints, because the taxes already freed up the real physical resources.
The ultimate takeaway here is a massive shift in power from finance back to democracy, allowing us to provision our society justly and wisely. This is not austerity. We don't have to pit environmentalism against human well-being anymore. We can use the full fiscal capacity of the state to drive an incredible ecological modernization, proving that a sustainable world is entirely affordable right now.
I want to leave you with this final thought to really chew on. Once you realize the fiscal straitjacket is entirely imaginary, the only thing left to change is our political will. We have the resources, and money is definitely not the constraint. The mechanics to save the planet and prosper are sitting right in front of us. So, will we choose to afford our future? What are we actually waiting for?